Hello, and welcome to the Muses Lab, your destination for all things spiritual, sensual, and pleasurable. Here I explore the nuances of our human experience, connect with practitioners to support your glow up, and share my lessons and blessings as perspective to move you closer to alignment and self-empowerment. I invite you to join me on this adventure of discovery, and hope what you receive inspires you to become the muse of your life's journey. So without further ado, let's explore. Hello, and welcome to the Muses Lab podcast. I'm your host, Siobhan L., and I'm a little late with this episode. I first want to shout out Vanessa Aldridge, who is Vanessa is art on TikTok. I believe that's her TikTok handle. I want to thank her for setting me down this path of the villain. And you're doom scrolling on TikTok and you find on your For You page things that show up. And sometimes things catch your attention and sometimes they don't. But this caught my attention, one, because I hadn't seen any of her content on my For You page in a while. And I follow her, but I still hadn't seen any of her content on my feed in a while. What made me follow her is she talked about how we're not strong enough to let our situationships evolve into creative partnerships that allow us to evolve our creativity. And immediately it made me think about Kerry Washington and Tony Goldwyn. Not to say that they are bending it back and busting it open, but there is a sexual chemistry. There's a chemistry, I should say. Let me not label that sexual. I don't want to put that out there, but there is a chemistry that is undeniable between those two where they just work together creatively. And I believe that chemistry allows them to just manifest themselves and expand their creative ingenuity in ways that they probably didn't imagine, or ways that they may not have been able to do individually, right? So in that particular TikTok, she names people who were either in situationships or became creative partners, and how that union allowed them to just reach the height of their creativity. And I shared that with my community. So I've been a fan ever since. So early October 2024, she talked about the villain challenge. And I was like, the villain challenge? What the fuck is that? And a lot of people have been doing a 75 hard. I had no idea where that came from. I had to do my Googles and find out that it was like, it's this a fitness structure created by this guy. So, everyone is evolving this 75 hard, but the villain challenge was the 75 hard before creatives. And after she talked about what the villain archetype represents, the discipline, the consistency, villains would never show up late to the party. They never skimp on their goals. And I just was like, oh shit. I didn't think about it like that. Like that just shifted my whole mindset about how I'm approaching life, how I'm approaching my creative practice, just me. It just shifted something in me, and I sat with it for a couple of days. And as I started talking it out, of course, it's October, it's spooky season, so it makes me think about all the Black villains. It's not many, but I thought about Prudence Knight, who's one of my favorite villains from the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, but also Reva Sevendare from Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like I mentioned, her Akasha, Bellaquist from American Gods. There's so many villains that we love. I mean, Angela Bassett's character, Marie Laveau, when she played Marie Laveau in The Coven for American Horror Story, not necessarily a villain, but, people could say Marie Laveau was villainous because she was an outlier, similar to Dominique Devereaux, Diane Carroll's character. She wanted to play a Black bitch. Boom. And here is the creation of Dominique Devereaux, who was labeled villainous because she went against what society at that time, and we're talking the 80s. So she went against what society at that time felt like she should be doing. So we're talking about a rich Black woman in Denver, Colorado. And over time, you'll know that Denver is very Black, right? There's a large Black community in Denver, but the way TV media makes us think about Denver, we think of it as a quintessential American white city, but it's very Black, right? So to be a rich Black woman amongst the elite white and, shaking the motherfucking table, one could call Dominique Devereaux villainous. So I just went down a rabbit hole of exploration of the different type of villains, different archetypes of villains that exist in TV and media. And as I started my first TikTok in response to the villain challenge that Vanessa talks about, and just really kind of going down the rabbit hole of my thoughts. As I was going down the rabbit hole, I had a little psychic jolt. And it came to me that society may be making us feel like pursuing our creative ingenuity is a dark path. Because when you think about it, right, a villain's origin story is always centered around some form of trauma. Something happened with the particular villain. They weren't always, air quotes, bad, right? They may have been good, air quotes, and I'm using good and bad very loosely because I know that's a binary. But in the structure of what society calls good and bad, they may have leaned on the spectrum of good. And then these series of events that happen, they're very traumatic, they're very visceral, that happens with this particular person. And now they have a goal to seek vengeance. And that vengeance could be to eliminate the threat that put them in this space of discord or caused the trauma, or the vengeance could be to prove to others that they aren't the one who's going to amount to nothing, that they are the ones who have the fortitude and the strength to become and evolve that which others believe that they are unable to achieve, right? So wherever the origin story comes in at is centered around trauma. So if you have this goal to either prove people wrong or seek vengeance against someone who has wronged you, that means the center of your motivation is rage. And when you think about rage and how a villain is able to alchemize that as fuel and use that to achieve that which people deem unachievable, it's similar to a creative path. Think about your creative ingenuity. Think about somebody like a Michelangelo. Who knows how many people thought that motherfucker was crazy? Who knows how many people thought he was crazy thinking about a Shakespeare? How many people thought Shakespeare was crazy? Like this levels, things that we exalt as high levels of ingenuity. If you are new to this podcast, I'm Black, right? I identify as Black. So thinking about Black people who have been the center of creative ingenuity in the United States of America, in the country of America, essentially those people are villains because they're going against what society is telling them that they should not and cannot be able to do. You should not be able to invent fucking peanuts. You shouldn't be able to do some type of GMO scientific ingenuity. You should not be able to create a fucking traffic light. You should not be able to create the filament that sets up a light bulb. You should not be able to create a maxi pad. You should not be able to create a security system. You should not be able to create the internet. You should not be able to create an ice cream scoop. Like all of these things that I just named were created by Black people that we use on a daily basis. And the villainous aspect of it is that they should not have been able to have access to information that allows them to create that. They should not have been able to access the part of their brain that naturally allows them to put two and two fucking together to create four. The input-output aspects of the Black brain in America should not have been able to do that. That makes us villainous. So when you think about the pursuit of your creative path, it may be considered a dark path because what are you supposed to be doing? Shucking and motherfucking jiving. You think about the hero, right? When you think about the juxtaposition between the hero and the antagonist in a story, the hero is trying to preserve privilege, right? It's trying to preserve free will. It's trying to preserve the opportunity to live in this frivolous space, right? That's what the hero is trying to preserve. And the villain is always seen as some entity that is trying to bring order. And if you peel back the layers of stories where there's a protagonist and antagonist, order is wrong. Think about Thanos. Thanos was trying to bring order to the world. Thanos came, saw Earth was in chaos, niggas doing whatever the fuck they want to do. Nobody's actually evolving the Earth. Everybody's just out here focused on materialism, this own proverbial Sodom and Gomorrah. Thanos came to bring order to Earth. Every antagonist that is in every story, particularly an outer entity character that comes to Earth, that descends to Earth, right? They're gathering planets to create their own empire to bring order. So what this is telling me is that when you take your gifts and dedicate it to a specific path that is a straight path, that is for the preservation of people, thinking about Prudence Knight as being a part of the Church of Satan, right? Those gifts are for the specific use of the entity that is ruling you, right? I get that, how that can be a problem. But it is the collective use of your gifts and talents for the upbringing, the betterment, the evolution of your community. When you think about dedicating yourself to that path, I'm also thinking about the movie Divergent. When you're thinking about dedicating to yourself to that path, for those who are used to being able to choose what they want to do, even if that choice is to do nothing, that is visceral. That is chaos, because the antagonist does not understand why you don't want to take your gifts and use it to help others, why you just want to sit on your gifts and do nothing, which essentially what the protagonist or the hero is doing when someone comes to the hero and says, you need to save us. The hero is doing nothing with their gifts. They're just regular, menial ass people living life in their own bubble. And it's like the prophecy says that you are here to save the world. So now you have to come with us and we have to train you to meet the antagonist who is going to take over the world, and you have to save us and save the world so that everyone can still be in this space of free will, sitting on their gifts, doing absolutely fucking nothing. And when you think about it from the antagonist perspective on how there's order, there's structure, everyone has a purpose, everyone's gifts has a purpose, everyone is utilizing themselves for the collective betterment of the community and their people and the preservation of their race. When you think about it in those terms and you look at this frivolosity, this chaos that is Earth, where no one is utilizing their gifts for anything, everyone is just doing whatever the fuck they want, and there's no progression, there's no evolution, then yeah, when you think about it from the antagonist perspective, that shit is just pure chaos. It's like you're just existing, and it's okay to just exist, but exist to do what? You don't know what's going on outside. You're not trying to help your people. It's just I don't want to help my people. I don't want to do anything. So you just want to let your race die. That's where the antagonist is coming in from. So when you think about it from that villainous perspective, right? And you think about yourself as a creative, and as a creative, how your gifts are here to help Earth. And if you don't give order to yourself, if you just move haphazardly and with chaos and frivolously, and you just kind of squander your gifts and then feel like later you don't have a purpose, well, it's because you have gifts and talents that you haven't allowed yourself to kind of tighten up with and dedicate yourself to your craft so that you can evolve and have a purpose. The villain always has a purpose. Even if the purpose is to take over the world, the villain has a purpose. The villain has a goal. The villain has something that incites them, that allows them to wake up in the morning and face another day. Think about Pinky and the Brain. What was Brain's goal? To take over the fucking world. Every single day. Dedicated to his fucking craft to take over the fucking world with Pinky by his side. That's what they did every fucking day. I even think about Phineas and Ferb, which is one of my favorite cartoons. They weren't necessarily villainous, but every single day they had a goal to decide how were they going to make the day better? What exciting thing were they going to do today? They built a fucking amusement park in their backyard and charged people to come to the amusement park. Craziness. But that's dedication. It's dedication to your craft. And the villain is always dedicated. It isn't just about consistency. It's about being persistent. A villain is always persistent. And we are made to feel like persistence and consistency is a dark path. That's so wild to me. That if we dedicate ourselves to our craft, that it's a dark path. Because all we are fixated on is becoming a master at our craft. So then that led me to, if we become masters of our craft, can we be colonized? No. How can you colonize me when I'm a master at what I do? All the things we know about colonization aside, right? Because that's a loaded conversation, right? It's hard to do that when I am a master at my craft, when I've dedicated my gifts to something, when I've awakened something in me that allows me to envisage, if you will, or see things beyond the reality that is in front of me. If I am a visionary who is a master at my craft, it's hard to impress upon me these restrictive structural rules that place me in a box. See, the villain isn't necessarily in a box, because most villains, when you think about it, have a broad range of things that they're able to do. You think about villains in TV film, they speak 5 different languages, they know 5, 6 different forms of martial arts, they have some type of technical ingenuity, they know how to work with their hands, they're very haptic, they have some semblance of compassion and fortitude, some semblance of insight. So a villain is not pigeonholed to one thing. They are masters at a broad range of things. You don't ever see anything about the villain being colonized. You see them becoming more empathetic and more self-aware, where they don't try to make everyone like them, right? Try to recreate versions of them in other people. So you'll see one type of solution that turns out like that. I mean, unless they end up eliminating the threat that is the villain, often you see some type of happy for now where the villain decides, well, I don't have to make you group of people like me. Maybe I might shift and take a different perspective on how I assert my authority. That's a solution that most villains come to, but they're never just in a box. Wow. They're never just in a box. They're masters of their craft. So when you think about the villain arc, have we been looking at the villain all wrong? I feel like we have been looking at the villain wrong, because when you take I want to eliminate everyone in the world and, colonize everybody. When you take that part out and you look at the villain's routine, you look at the villain's confidence, you look at the villain's ability to persevere, you look at the villain's ability to alchemize things that have been wrong to them and use it as fuel, use it as the motivation for their evolution. Even the thought to evolve is villainous. Even the thought that other people around them should evolve, should be better, because what the villain wants is to make everybody the best version of themselves. Even if the best version seems to be the way a villain is written, seems to be in their image and likeness, they know that that is an evolved version of their species. Our species happens to be human, right? So the evolved version of their species looks like them. And what they want is to, often forcefully, push others to allow themselves to evolve into a better version of themselves. When you think about it from that perspective, what is so wrong about evolving into a better version of yourself? A version of yourself that is an active contributor to society and to the betterment of your community and the betterment of your species. What actually is wrong with that? What I'm realizing is that a lot of the powers that be, depending on where they are, don't want us to do that. They don't necessarily want us to be a better version of ourselves. Because if we become a better version of ourselves, then other people will be inspired by us becoming a better version and an evolved version of ourselves. They will want to know how to do that. So now all that we are doing is teaching each other how to be evolved versions of ourselves, right? So I believe and the wellness spectrum, that's why certain coaches and gurus follow a specific matrix and don't actually teach you how to evolve. They give you very basic, subpar instructions and tools. They don't actually guide you on how to evolve. They give you just enough to make you feel like you've evolved so that you can shut the fuck up and focus on going back into this capitalistic structure. Because if I teach you how to evolve, makes me think about TikTok. If I teach you how to evolve, then you're going to go against the capitalistic structure that keeps you at just enough. Whatever that metric is, the capitalistic structure is always going to keep you at just enough. But if I evolve and I teach you how to evolve and you teach other people how to evolve, and then we're all teaching each other how to evolve and how to ascend, that disrupts the capitalistic structure, because now I'm no longer in a box. Now I'm in this frequency of constant evolution. And if I'm in a frequency of constant evolution, again, I can't be colonized. I can't be bound. I can't fit into this box, into this structure, because I'm always going to evolve outside and over the box. The villain is always evolving. The hero's not evolving. The hero becomes the hero, and then the hero goes down and goes and lives its life. It's done its task. It's fulfilled the prophecy. It's lived its life. But the villain, even when you think the villain is down, the villain is thinking of another way to achieve its goal. I want to say it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I can't think of the name of the character, but it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, where they thought this particular character that's part of the Empire, that leads the Empire, they thought this particular character had been eliminated. But in fact, someone came and saved that character, and they were still plotting to take over the world. There's a reason why villains aren't quite eliminated. All they do is evolve. But because of that, they're seen as a threat to the free will and the actual chaos of people that the hero does its duty to save. So the hero does what it does. They do what they do, and then they go off and live a air quotes peaceful life, while the villain is back dedicated to their fucking craft to achieve their goal, thinking of new strategies on how to achieve that goal. They're in a constant state of evolution. Fuck with me. With me here. They're in a constant state of evolution. And if you can see yourself as the villain and the narrative of the way society tries to make you feel, if you see yourself as the villain and you take all of these different elements of the villain archetype, of the villain arc, and you apply them to yourself and you dedicate them to your craft and you use that as a new routine, as new guidelines to help you achieve creative success, creative innovation, creative ingenuity, creative evolution. If you use that for yourself, where does that leave your life? That's what I've been sitting with for the last 3 weeks. Where does that leave your life? I'm still peeling back layers because I'm a framework person. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you don't need a framework. I got ADHD. I'm no spicy. I need a framework. I need a framework because it allows me to work within a specific structure, and then I can fine tune the structure as I go. But I have to peel things apart and really understand the ins and outs of certain things, concepts, ideas. I have to peel back the layers and I have to go deep. I have to dig deep, because once I dig deep and I come out of the space that I'm in, I'm able to then apply what I've learned. And once I apply it to myself, once I'm in the middle of doing it myself and I get past level 1, I can then teach it. That's the only way I can teach. I have to immerse myself. I have to enmesh myself into a concept, and I have to embody it, and then I can teach it. Frameworks allow me to guide myself into embodiment. What would it look like for you to embody the villain? What would it look like to be the villain in your life? But here's another point. As I'm exploring the villain era, the villain archetype, I realized that a lot of us have probably been in our villain era our whole lives. Fuck with me for a second. If at some point in your life you had somebody tell you that you wasn't gonna be shit, a family member transitioned on, left you, abandoned you, some pinch point in your life happened, because remember, every villain has a trauma story, right? Has an origin story. If your origin story is centered around people making you feel like because of your circumstance that you won't amount to anything, you've been in your villain era all your life. You just didn't have the language or the concept to recognize that is what it's been. You have dedicated yourself to proving people wrong. You have dedicated yourself to proving to yourself that these people are wrong and that you can and will amount to something, that you will make something of yourself, that you will create and evolve yourself, that you will actualize yourself. You've been doing this your whole life. You just didn't know that it was a villain era. See, the way pop culture makes us think about a villain era is that now that you're saying no, you've been saying no. You said no the first time that you decided that whoever told you that you wasn't going to be shit, that they were a lie. No, I am going to be somebody. And then you went on and you did it. It'll make you feel like you finally saying no to people and you're choosing yourself, but you've been doing that your whole life. The difference is in your adult life, it's just a different phase. You started in your villain era as a kid. You chose to be an overachiever as a kid. You chose to dedicate yourself to your craft. path, which happened to be your schoolwork. You chose to dedicate yourself to your area of study, which if you went to college, you got a certification, that's your area of study, right? You chose to follow that path and work in the corporate space or work your trade or whatever type of career that you decided. You chose to lead that path. Now your villain error might be, I don't want to do traditional work. I have a passion that I want to pursue. And you may think that is you becoming the hero of your life, but that is still you becoming the villain because you are an outlier to pursue your creative passion and monetize it and create the life that you want based on doing the things that you love, you desire, and that you are passionate about. You're still the villain. Could it be that following the villain path, the villainous path, the villain narrative, the villain arc is a form of liberation? You being villainous in your life is liberating yourself from the confines and the structures and the boxes and the chains and the narratives that people have placed upon you, and you breaking out of that box. Isn't that villainous? Now allowing yourself to just lay down and accept the things that people have impressed upon you. Isn't that villainous? I still think about Dominique Devereaux telling Alexis Colby that her champagne was burned. I'm not accepting this freezer burned champagne, bitch. This shit is burned. I'm better than this burned champagne. I eat Petrova. What did she say? Belusica, Petrova, caviar. I'm not eating this basic ass shit that you're giving me. I'm not drinking this basic ass champagne. I'm better than that. That's villainous. I'm better than the 9-to-5 capitalistic structure. It's cool if that's what you want to do, but I see my life better than that. So I'm going to pursue my passions and ascend above that as villainous. We've been viewing the villain all wrong. I'm still deep in my exploration, and I've been sharing a lot of my inside thoughts out loud in my newsletter. So if you're not on my newsletter, www.themusislab.com, so you can join. Scroll all the way down to the bottom. Or to the middle of the homepage and join the newsletter. As always, I have the link to join in my show notes. But that's where I'm doing my exploration of the villain arc, the villain narrative, and perspective first, because I believe in order for us to embody, we have to be educated first. We have to have the education in order to embody the things that we want to become. We have to immerse ourselves. I believe through immersion, it's the way that we learn, really understanding the intricacies and the details and the ins and out. And once we immerse ourselves, we can come out of our immersion pool, and then we can allow ourselves to reflect and embody. I believe that's the best way to shift and educate ourselves and becoming the things that we want to be and who we want to be. We have to immerse ourselves in it first. We have to wade in its water, get comfortable with it. We have to reconcile with some of the things that are not so great about it. And we have to accept the things that we like and that resonate with us, that feel aligned with us. And then we take what works for us and we leave the immersion pool and we study it and we become it and we begin to apply. I believe that's the best way to move towards embodiment, to evolution, to ascension. Yeah. So if you found me on TikTok, here's the podcast episode. Because I got tired of doing this in parts. And I needed to get all of my thoughts together and just kind of synthesize everything that I've been feeling and that I've been experiencing as it pertains to the villain arc, the villain narrative. And if you got the funds, because that villain challenge with Vanessa ain't free. So if you got the funds, definitely do the villain challenge. She's doing one in November of 2024. She has a wait list on her website. She also has a Substack. I'll actually include those links in the show notes for anyone who's interested. You can join her Substack free or subscribed, where she's talking about the villain challenge, and then you can go on her website and do more about the villain challenge. I have some things that I'm working on, and I'll make that announcement soon. That's definitely a 2025 offering. To follow my exploration of the villain narrative, definitely join my newsletter. Again, that'll be in the show notes. And yeah, that's where my yapping is ending today. I thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab, and until we meet again. Thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab. I hope you enjoyed this week's adventure. Be sure to like this episode, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and share the wealth with others. Sign up for my newsletter and join the TMO community at www.themuseslab.com. Receive weekly musings, early access, and exclusive drops, as well as discounts on products and services. Thank you once again for tapping in, and until next time.